Today's topic is basically nutrition and especially nutrition and kids. And I think that is quite a big topic in itself because I mean, as you look at it, nutrition is very important, whether it's an adult or a kid or whoever it is. But more importantly, I think it forms a very, very important piece of the puzzle in growing up, especially when it comes to children. Why so? Because everything that children eat, drink, imbibe, absorb, whether in terms of positivity, whether in terms of nutrition, everything during their formative years is what is going to probably, mold them into what they're going to become as they grow up. So today's topic basically, we're going to be speaking about nutrition, especially nutrition in kids. And what is very, very important, like I said, is, good nutrition is what is going to help people, I mean, children reach their full potential as they grow up. Now, what are the four important or five important pillars of optimal health? If you look at this slide, there are five things that have been put up there. One is good nutrition, which is probably what we're going to be speaking about, most of the time today. Apart from that, we also have positive attitude, which is very important for children to grow up with, and also regular exercise, which is what's going to keep them healthy, which is going to keep them fit, and then weight management. This is very, very important. If you don't watch your weight when you're a kid, you're going to mess up very big time as you grow up. So I think, imbibing the right kind of eating habits, imbibing the right kind of exercise pattern, etc., is very, very important so that, you progress a child from the childhood onto an adult in a very healthy way. And of course, rest is something very, very important. We take it for granted. Children probably don't like to sleep, but I think rest is something very, very important. Now, let me address each one of these points one by one. Now, we look at a positive attitude. This is a very, very important thing. As parents, we are one of the biggest influence for children, especially during their younger years, because a child looks up to you or I as their hero and role model. And as parents, what is our primary duty to be? We need to be their encouragers. We need to be rewarding them as and when they progress and as and when they achieve something. And most importantly, we need to be non-judging of them. Because the moment you start judging them, they start over a period of time to withdraw into their shell. Now, if you look at these four visuals you see here, look at that. This is what I mean by, you are an encourager, you are the role model. And secondly, from thing to say that, you cannot do this, you need to be an encourager which says you can do it no matter what the hurdle is. It could be whether they are performing well in the studies or whether they are performing well in the sports. There are times, they come across hurdles, but as a parent, it's your duty, my duty to see that, you imbibe and you give them the right kind of culture and say, you can do it rather than say, maybe you're not cut out for that. And then also what happens is, when children mingle along with other children, it brings about and it starts bringing in a feeling of bonding amongst other children. They grow up, they learn from each other. In fact, children learn a lot more from their peers than they learn from others. And most importantly, what I would also look at it is, reading is a very, very important and important feature and important activity that children need to get into right from the very early childhood, because that is what is going to help them mold themselves. Like, they say 5 years from now, what you're going to be exactly what you are, depending on the kind of books that you read and also depending on what kind of people that you associate with. Okay, that's about positive attitude. Now, coming on regular exercise. Why is this important? Apart from just being fit and keeping themselves fit and bonding along with other children, they also get a lot of vitamin D in the natural way from the sunlight that they are in. And also what happens is regular exercise also induces something called endorphins in the body, which is basically the feel good, the hormones or the positive hormones in the body. When this happens, what happens is the child is always in a state of well-being. They know what he's always in a state of being very positive about what he does. And that happens. And then weight management. Just a minute, I'll just switch on the fan. I think it's very warm here. Okay. Like I said, weight management is something very, very important. If you don't watch a child's weight as they are, when they are young, they progress into something a little more complicated as they grow up. Especially, if weight is not controlled and structured, and if it is not paid attention at the younger days, there are chances that the child will probably develop juvenile diabetes because of metabolic syndromes that can come into. And when I mean by weight management is not just about exercise. It is also about the kind of food they eat and the kind of activity that they do along with everything else. And when it comes to weight management, it doesn't mean that you have to eat less, but what is more important is you eat the right kind of food, because the right kind of food is what is going to help you metabolize everything and you grow up to be much better. And then the very, very important pillar of optimal health is what is called rest or sleep. If you look at it, this chart here, children at various ages require different levels of sleep. An infant up to 12 months of age requires almost up to 12 to 16 hours of sleep. As they grow up, toddlers require close to about 11 to 14 hours. And preschool maybe up to 10 to 13. That is probably one of the reasons why when children go to pre-KG and nursery schools, they are given maybe an hour's 2 hours rest and sleep during the school time there, because that is what is very important. And then as you grow up, the sleep requirement reduces. And as we grow up, maybe 6 to 8 as an adult, and maybe about 8 to 10 hours as we grow up to be teenagers. Now, why is this very, very important? Now, rest is not just that you want to rest the body, but this is where most of the repair happens. This is where most of the building happens for the child. Because only when you rest properly, the body is able to heal itself, the healing mechanism sets in, and then the growth happens. And then they tend to become stronger individuals. And the most important, today we are going to be talking about nutrition, and that's one of the most important pillars of nutrition. Now, in childhood especially, it's very, very critical. The children get absolutely optimum amount of nutrition, because that is what is going to help them grow in terms of physical and mental abilities. And also what happens is when you give the child the right kind of nutrition, they have great amount of energy, and then they have a great amount of interest in learning. They're able to focus on what they are doing, and also positively influences any cognitive development and academic performance. And of course, nutrition also gives, is also very, very effective in the physical growth and the overall development of the child. If you look at these 4 pictures here, what do you think each one of these represents? For example, this, let's see you type out your answers there. First one is healthy, okay, right? What about this child here? Isn't it eating a lot of fruits, balanced? Second one is deficient. And okay, forced to eat. Somebody says forced to eat. Okay, a lot of greens. Okay, not keen to it. Which one is not keen to eat? Okay, not tasty, the second one. Okay, isn't it? If you look at it, you know what? There's a lot of good food put in front of the child, but what is more important is the child getting all the nutrition from the food that he is eating. That's very, very important. Okay, now let us understand what are the kinds of nutrients that the body requires. Now, how do you classify nutrients? Basically, nutrients are classified into two major types. One is what is called as the macronutrients. Macronutrients basically because you require in huge amounts. And what are some of the macronutrients that are required? Basically carbohydrates. And typically in your about 45 to 65% of your calories in a day need to come from your carbohydrates, depending on the kind of activity the child is involved with. Now, fats, typically about 20 to 35%, depending on the kind of activity the child is involved with. Fats are required, which gives you the kind of calories. Now, the first source of energy that the body gets from is from the carbohydrates. And anything beyond that comes from the fats by breaking down the fats and converting into carbohydrates and sugars. And that is converted into energy that the body requires. And then proteins, about 10 to 35% of the nutrition has to come from protein. Now, why is this important? Because protein is very, very important in building the body. It is building in development of the body, creating immune system, creating a lot of hormones that are required for the body to develop, and creating what are called as antibodies and building your immunity and so on and so forth. Now, apart from these three macronutrients, you also have two very, very important nutrients which are completely forgotten and taken for granted. That is fiber, and secondly, water. Now, typically, water is a very, very important nutrient, though it does not give any calories. That is very important because that is what is useful, and that is what is responsible for carrying a lot of nutrients across the body. And also it plays a very, very vital role in detoxifying the body from any toxic substances that are a part of the metabolic activity. And apart from that, you also require fiber, which is very, very important. Now, when it comes to fiber, there are two kinds of fiber. One is what is called as a soluble fiber. The other one is what is called as insoluble fiber. Now, insoluble fiber is basically from the roughage that you get from eating lots of vegetables and any rough grains that you have. Typically greens, vegetables, all this after they're digested form what is called as fiber. This is very important because this helps in clearing your digestive system and also helps in cleaning and detoxifying. Apart from that, there's also another fiber which is not generally seen by most of us, and that is called as soluble fiber. It is called soluble because it is hidden in the food that you and I eat. Now, why is this very, very important? Soluble fiber plays a very important role in binding to the starch and the sugar and any excess fat that is there in the digestive system, and helps in releasing it slowly, or it helps in throwing it out of the body. This way, fiber, insoluble fiber keeps the body very, very healthy, and also it maintains your sugar levels and the fat levels and the lipid levels very healthy in the body. So it's very important, apart from consuming just carbohydrates, fats, and protein, important to include lots of protein, fiber, and lots of water in the body, in the diet. Now, apart from the macronutrients, you also have something called micronutrients. Why are they called micronutrients? Basically, the amount of quantity that you require them in is very, very small. And typically, vitamins and minerals are the micronutrients that you require. And if you look at it, there are close to about 13 vitamins that you require, and about 11 minerals, including some very trace metals like zinc, selenium, chromium, which are very, very important for the body. So you require a combination of macronutrients and micronutrients. So when you choose your food, when you put a plate of food on the table for the child or for yourself, it's very, very important that to ensure that you have the right combination of the macro nutrient as well as the micronutrient. Now, if you look at a child's plate, typically you need to fill up 50% of that. If you look at from this picture, typically about 50% of that needs to be filled up with fruits and vegetables, because first of all, the fruits and vegetables gives them a lot of energy, and also they gives them a lot of vitamins and minerals, which is very, very important for building the immune system, for building various active and various other processes that are required in the body. Apart from that, you also have about 30-35% of it coming from grains, which will give you a lot of energy, which gives you carbohydrates to generate energy to do your day-to-day activity. And then you have protein. Protein is like basically the building block for your body. And this is very, very important. You need to, portion at least about 15 to 25% of your diet needs to come from protein, especially in the early growing stages. Now, if you look at it, if you look at a scale on how much of protein you require in a day, typically for an adult, you require 1 gram of protein per kg body weight. Like if you're 60 kilos of weight, you require 60 grams of protein that has to come to you. But a child is in the formative year, he is growing. So a child requires a lot more protein than what you and I require. So typically a child requires something close to about 1.25 to 1.5 grams of protein per day. A 35 kg or 30 kg child requires close to about 44 to 45 grams of protein in a day. And that is what is going to help the child grow stronger, grow bigger, and develop a lot of muscles, which is going to be very useful as they grow up in age. So this is what your typical plate has to look like. Okay, so you need to include adequate amount of fruits and vegetables, enough of grains coming from cereals and other grains, and also protein, which can come from milk, it can come from eggs, meat, and other sources, which we'll be discussing as we move on. Now, children, like I said, have a slightly different requirement of nutrition compared to what you and I require. Principally, whether it's an adult or a child, we all require the same kind of nutrients. Basically, the vitamins, minerals, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. However, children require these in a slightly different way, different quantity than what you and I require. Then, just like I mentioned from the previous slide, you require about 1.5 grams of protein for a child. Likewise, a child's iron requirement or a calcium requirement is slightly different from what you require. Now, why is that so? A calcium, for example, is very, very important because the child is forming a healthy skeletal system. Up to the age of about 18, they need a very good amount of calcium that is required. And also iron. Iron is required basically not only for the getting blood and oxygen supply, but also it is very, very important in forming the antibodies and helping your immune system function optimally. So that is why it is very important, especially when girls reach about 12 to 14, that is when they start losing a lot of blood. As a parent, it's very important that you pay certain amount of attention to the kind of iron requirements they have. That's very, very important. Otherwise, like anemia can set in, then the energy levels drop down, immunity can come down. It's all has a snowballing effect. There's no one specific thing that goes wrong, but when there is a short supply of some of the nutrients, there's a snowballing effect that happens, and overall the body starts functioning far very much lower than what is expected to. Now, why, let's just look at why is a healthy diet very important. A healthy diet helps the children grow and learn. Like I said, they're able to focus, they're able to do things much better. And if you're able to balance your nutrition properly, then there is a very high chance that you can prevent childhood obesity and also weight related issues like very early onset of juvenile diabetes and things like that. And you obviously, as a parent, it's your responsibility to choose from a very healthy source of protein, such as lean meats, eggs, nuts, and also switch to whole grains rather than switching over to and adapting refined flours like maida or flour or cornstarch or things like that. And also, it's very, very important that you broil or grill or steam foods rather than deep frying them. Very, very important, because that way they get the right amount of good fats and not the bad fats, which can help probably lead to obesity and weight related issues. And last but not the least, you need to limit the kind of junk or the fast food that they eat. Now, how do you define junk or fast food? That's a very, very individualistic thing. Perhaps one of the common most thing is, when you look at junk food or fast food, it's very, very common for us to probably blame a pizza or a burger. But how many times have you ever thought of vada? Or how many times have you thought of a masala dosa as a bad item? What you make at home is completely different from what you get at a hotel, isn't it? Have you ever seen the amount of fat that is poured on a dosa? But unfortunately, what happens is we tend to blame and the diet patterns which we have that have come from maybe overseas, but we tend to ignore what is there locally. If you don't pay attention, what is grown locally, what is eaten locally can be as bad as anything else. So that is why you need to pay a very, very good amount of attention to what you feed the child on a day-to-day basis. Now let us look at some of the nutrient requirements children have. Now, to the age of 2 to 4, children require something close to about 1,000 to 1,400 calories, whether it's for boys or girls. I mean, most of it looks similar. But also what happens is, the protein requirement, like I said, you need up to about 1.5 grams per kg body weight. And that can come from meat, eggs, pulses, and also dairy sources like milk, cheese, butter, anything else. Now, you need to have about 1 to 1.5 cups of fruits, maybe 1 to 1.5 cups of vegetables, which means in a day they need to have about 3 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. That's very, very important because, like I said, fruits and vegetables is going to give them the adequate quantity of minerals and vitamins to help them build a very strong immune system. The guidelines for boys and girls is almost the same, except that the calorie requirement in case of boys is slightly different because of physical activity, and also the growth pattern in boys is slightly different from what is required for girls. So I can probably share this later on. And moving on, for the ages between 5 and 8, what is the main difference here from the earlier slide is the calorie requirement is slightly high. The kids have become a lot more active, they become a lot more energetic. So the amount of calorie required that you require is almost as much as maybe an adult requires, close to about 1200 to 1800 calories per day. And again, these are the dietary requirements according to the WHO. And between the ages of 9 to 13, again, the calorie requirements have gone up because, they are in the growth phase and they have a lot more energy demands. They are involved in a lot of sports and things like that. So if you look at it, right up to the age of about 14 to 15, the protein requirement is almost about 1.5 grams per kg. This is something very, very important. You need to pay very close attention to the protein requirement in a child's development. Because what happens is, unlike a deficiency in iron or maybe some other vitamin, protein deficiency doesn't show up immediately. If there is a deficiency in iron, maybe the child feels lethargic, then he feels tired, then you suddenly diagnose it by a small blood test and you declare him that he's anemic, and you can probably supplement it and it grows on. But what happens is when there is a deficiency in protein, it doesn't show till probably he's an adult. By then, what, a lot of body functioning, a lot of body systems have functioned far below expectations, far below their optimal level. And that is when, by the age they're about 35, they could probably develop or diabetes. Or in case of a woman, it could, a girl, it could probably, they start developing something called a PCOD by the time they are 30, 35. They could probably develop thyroid issues. They could develop a lot of other issues when you don't pay enough of attention to protein in the very early ages. So it's very, very important as parents that we make sure the children get adequate amount of protein. But unfortunately, what happens is, the Indian diet, especially the South Indian form of diet, it's primarily dominated by carbohydrates, which gives them a lot of energy, a lot of calories, no doubt about it. But it creates also a deficiency in the protein requirement that is there in the body. And this builds up over a period of time, it starts showing. They will have probably a smaller frame. They also have lower amount of muscles. And most importantly, over a period of time, as they progress and transition themselves to bigger adults, they have a lot of body functioning that are not optimal. Now, so let us look at some of the sources of nutrient dense food. For protein, you can always choose seafood, lean meat, poultry, eggs, beans, pulses, soya, peas. No, any of this. It could even be things like paneer. It could be tofu. When it comes to protein, it's not necessary somebody has to be a non-vegetarian, somebody has to be a meat eater, or somebody eats egg to get all the proteins that is required. But you need to make an intelligent choice. You need to make some intelligent decisions about where to get the right kind of proteins that are required for the body. And if at all there is a need, maybe you can probably even, on advice from a nutritionist or a doctor, you can go in for some protein supplementation as and when it is required. But there are some great sources of proteins, even in the vegetarian, even for the vegetarians, in terms of by eating broccoli or maybe even some greens and things like that. Now, fruits. Encourage your child to eat a lot of fresh fruit, and like I said, at least about 3 to 5 servings of very good quality fresh fruits and vegetables are very, very important. First of all, they get a lot of nutrition from the fruits and vegetables. Plus, also fruits and vegetables gives a lot of fiber, which is very, very important to keep themselves active and fit, and to keep the digestive system very, very healthy. And if your child is drinking a lot of fruit juice, make sure it is 100% juice without any added sugar, because sugars can give you calories which are hidden in the juices, and over a period of time, it can wreck up your entire metabolism. And vegetables, like I said, children are slightly fussy when it comes to vegetables, but make it interesting for them to start, eating a lot of fresh and seasonable vegetables, and also provide a lot of variety of vegetables, especially dark green, vegetables, and pick vegetables which are very bright in color. Why that is important, I'll come in the next few slides. But look at colors when you're talking about vegetables. When I talk about vegetables, it is not necessarily only things like potatoes or onions, but you need to have a lot of colors. Colors give you what are called phytofactors, which I'll speak about a little later. Very, very important building the immunity. And when it comes to grains, choose whole grains rather than refined flours. And also see if you can ensure that you get bread made out of whole grains rather than the regular refined flour. And also, it's very important, children are encouraged to drink a lot of milk, at least during the younger formative years, because milk is a good source of not only protein, but also a very good source of some very good vitamins like vitamin B and also for calcium, which is very, very important for the growth. And how do you limit your child's calorie? This is a very important question, this because calories are hidden in so many things that you and I probably don't pay attention to, and we don't even notice it. But some of the things that you can take notice of is, limit the kind of added sugars. It could probably be whether it is brown sugar or whether it is jaggery or corn sweet or even honey. All of these are sweeteners. Most often, sometimes people come and say, instead of having sugar, can I have jaggery or can I add honey to something? Whether it is honey or whether it is the jaggery or sugar, all of them have calories. It's very, very important that you limit the amount of intake of these things. And also, what, as an adult, I think it becomes our responsibility to look at the nutrition label and always pick cereals which have minimal label sugar added, and also try and pick fruit juices and any other snacks which have minimum amount of added sugar in it. And limit trans fat and saturated fats. When I mean by saturated fats and trans fats, one of the biggest source of trans fats and saturated fats is basically bakery products. A bread, as innocent as it looks, has a lot of saturated fat in it. A piece of cake has a lot of saturated. It looks very interesting. It's a very convenient food. You just pick up a piece of it and put it down your throat. But it has a lot of saturated fat. It has a lot of trans fats, which over a period of time can completely mess up your metabolism and give rise to a lot of metabolic disorders, like whether it is thyroid issues or whether it is a PCOD or whether it is obesity, which can lead on to juvenile diabetes or maybe full-blown diabetes type 2 over a period of time. So, and also when it comes to packaged food, most of the packaged food has a lot of sodium, which is common salt, because that is used as a preservative. So ensure that you as an adult, it becomes your responsibility to make sure that you understand the labels, and that is what you need to put in front of the child. In a nutshell, some of the healthy child-friendly habits that you can begin to form for a child. Keep snacks very, very simple. Instead of probably putting a packet of wafers or probably putting a packet of some corn puffs which are deep fried, look at giving them a piece of fruit or a handful of dried fruits or nuts, which is going to be very, very healthy. And like I said, eat the rainbow. Create colorful plates with a variety of vegetables. Now, when you look at fruits and vegetables, you need to choose from a variety of colors. Purple for brinjal, or it could be purple cabbage. It could be orange, which comes from carrots, and maybe capsicum. Look at the color ranges like orange to yellow, white, then red, because all these are very important. For example, any red color vegetable or fruit contains something called resveratrol, which is very, very important for the heart health. And vegetables which are white, for example, onions and garlic, very, very important for the health of your lungs and bones. And vitamins and fruits and vegetables which are yellow in color, very, very important for helping you build up your immunity to coughs and colds. So that's very, very important that eat a rainbow, have a colorful plate of vegetables and fruits, which is very, very important in helping the child develop a very good immune system. And to get children to understand food and to probably make them get interested in food, we understand children are fussy, but to make them a little more interested, Get them to involve themselves in a little bit of cooking. You know, they can involve in the cooking as you're doing it. They can probably participate in a bit of activity. And when they start doing something on their own, they feel very proud that they have created a dish. It becomes so much more easy for them. And like I said, limit sugary drinks, especially juices, because sugar is hidden in juices which you don't even see. Like a glass of you know a Coke, or maybe a fruit drink that you get in the market, can have up to about 8 to 10 spoons of sugar, which is very, it is hidden. It is dissolved. You don't understand it. But what happens is, because of certain additives that they put in the drink, the taste of the sugar is masked, but you get a calorie high. You get a calorie kick when you have it, and that can be very addictive for children. So as an adult, it's your responsibility to ensure that they have the right kind of stuff, and take it slowly. I mean, some children are slow when it comes to eating. Don't try to hurry them, don't try to push them. Give them space, because sometimes, what, you want them to finish up what is in the plate, you want to clear up the table, you want to wash up the dishes and get on with it. But for them, that is not the right thing to do. It's only when you give them enough space, they will know how much they've eaten and when they want to say no. If you push them, they get up very early from the plate and move away from the table, having been underfed, or they could probably even eat more than what is required, gulp down, because you are forcing them to do. Instead of that, what, be patient with them, give them enough of time so that they learn how to do it. And also, what, do not punish the child for not eating. Instead, make the food more interesting, make it more palatable, so because that is when they'll start learning how to eat and they start getting the right kind of food. And okay, now coming to, let us understand some of the deficiencies which come from school, deficiency that you commonly see in school growing children. And most of the deficiencies come in the form of calcium deficiency. They don't get enough fiber because they don't eat enough of fruits and vegetables. Folate basically is folic acid. It could be deficiency in iron, magnesium, potassium, and vitamin D. When a kid has an iron deficiency, it's very recognizable. It's very easy to see, because energy levels come down, he starts feeling lethargic, immunity goes down. But it's also important that you ensure that these other deficiencies are also paid attention to. And research has shown that two of the most common deficiencies children or healthy children normally face is iron deficiency and vitamin D. Typically these days, children don't get enough of iron. That's the reason I think even the government runs a health policy where when the girl children or the child is given something called a blue vitamin, blue iron tablet once a week. And apart from that, vitamin D deficiency, because most of the time kids tend to be indoors, they hardly go out to the sun, they don't get enough of vitamin D. So as a parent, it becomes your responsibility to make sure that they go get enough of sunlight, because that is what is going to help them and get a lot of vitamin D in the body, which is very important, because vitamin D helps in absorbing calcium from the food, and calcium is important for building the bone or the skeletal system of the body. Now, healthy children, immunity and nutrition, all these are something that go hand in hand. Immunity basically comes from some of the micronutrients like zinc, selenium, copper, iron, and vitamin A, C, E, and B, and folic acid. Especially if you want a child to be very healthy, have good lungs, and have good immunity to coughs and colds, I think vitamin A and vitamin C is very important. And any deficiency that the body, iron is very important, along with folic acid, because folic acid is going to help you create enough of absorb enough of vitamin D in the body and creates a very healthy blood that is very important for transporting not only oxygen but also a good amount of nutrition all around the body. And zinc and selenium are very important, especially in building a lot of building your immune system in the body. So for that to happen, you obviously need to have a balanced plate of food on your table every day that you need to give to the children. Okay, now I almost had finished whatever I had to say. At the basic level, what, most of us parents think we understand nutrition is very important, but trying to implement this lifestyle at times can be challenging, because Kids are fussy. You generally have a fight with them. You have an argument why they don't want to eat something, because they don't like it. But as a parent, it becomes your duty and my duty to make sure that something is very, very palatable for the child and make it interesting for them. Because as much as it is important to have calories, it's more important to have the right kind of food, a balanced life, along with exercise, positive mental attitude, and so on and so forth that I spoke about. Now, for that to happen, as an adult, you and I need to set the right example. You eat healthy, they eat healthy. You eat right, they eat right. But in spite of that, you know what? Children do whatever they see. Most of the time, they get influenced by a lot of unhealthy food habits because of the ads that they see. And that is especially we can notice on the TV or maybe on the billboard somewhere. Now, my question today is, you see this here. As a parent, what do you think you could do to correct that? Let's hear some answers on that. Children do get influenced by ads, right? As a parent, what do you think you could do? Don't see television. Replace by similar healthy food. Okay. Anything else? Exactly. This is a good thing. See if you can cook the same at home with the healthy ingredients. Yeah, make it visually appealing. Exactly. Yeah. Colorful, healthy plate. Yes. Children are attracted by good colors. Yeah, that's important. Lots of answers coming up, isn't it? You know what? This is the reason why I wanted you people to answer this, because if you look at it, this is no magic pill that I can give and say this is the right kind of thing you need to do. Your child is different from my child. It could be different from somebody else's child. But what is important is, what, you need to become creative. You need to learn how to handle this, and you need to make food the right choice, and need to make sure that children get the optimum nutrition that they require. But in spite of all that, what happens is sometimes this is when, what, something that stuck to me, and our son was young. We thought we were giving him the right kind of nutrition. We thought we were giving him the right kind of food. We were conscious, we knew. But in spite of that, what used to happen was sometimes he used to fall ill, and very frequently, we had to go to the doctor. Though we knew we had been in nutrition, it happened. And that is when we understood, what, the quality of the food that you and I eat today is not exactly what was available maybe 30, 40, 50, 100 years ago. The quality has completely deteriorated, basically because the soil in which the fruits and vegetables have grown is completely different. The farming practices have gone, what is no longer organic. They use a lot of synthetic pesticide, a lot of synthetic manure, maybe synthetic fertilizers, and also a lot of pesticides which are not good. So what do you do? Sometimes the food that you get is not the right quality. It's not going to give you the right kind of nutrition that you and I require. That is probably, what, you can probably fall back on some kind of a good amount of supplementation that can give the child the right kind of immunity and the health that he or she requires. But are all supplements created equal? Not necessarily. You probably need to go back to a supplement which is probably organic, which has the right kind of balance of what is called as RDA, which stands for recommended daily allowance of the vitamins and minerals that the body requires, especially something which is created specific for the child. So you need to fall back on something like that. If there's a deficiency in the protein or the amount of protein that the child gets, probably you need to supplement that with that. If a multivitamin or something is required, probably you need to look at it. If, for example, omega-3, which is very, very important for the growth and the development of the brain, the nervous function is required, probably you need to depend on maybe a good amount of EPA and DHA, which happen to be a form of the a part of the omega-3 class of nutrients that is required. So that's very, very important. So my parting shot today, healthy children or happy children. And as an adult, it becomes your responsibility and my responsibility to make sure that they have the right kind of nutrition, they have the right kind of background that we create for them during the formative years, so they become better individuals, they become healthy adults. So if anybody wants to connect with me, my number is there. You can always reach out to me. I'm available 24/7. So I can always meet up with you, or maybe even on a call, address any nutritional requirements that are there, whatever it is. And if you have any questions, I'll probably open it up for the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes till uh, it's allowed, and then I can answer some questions.
Thanks, Kiran. That was really very good. It was such a kind of a healthy webinar with a lot of nutrition, a lot of food which you have shown on the screen. Great. Participants, if you have any questions, probably you can either type or you can ask directly. Kiran would be most happy to answer your question. Is homemade ghee good or good and healthy is what Srinivas asked.
Yeah, certain amount of ghee is good. It is good, but it depends on what is how much you are looking at giving the child.
Okay.
Because you know what, nobody said fat is bad for the body. You require the fat, that is because that is one of the good sources of energy for the body, but you need to know where you can limit it. It's a concentrated source of energy, but limit it. It's definitely healthy.
What nutrients do we have in ghee is what they're asking.
Nutrient that you would have is basically omega-6 fatty acids, which is a concentrated source of fat. Yeah, omega-6 again is a nutrient. You know, it can come from fat, from ghee, or it can come from the oils that we eat. But you have, I mean, if you want to break it down, you can break it down to polysaturated, polyunsaturated, monosaturated, so many things. I think it's probably a little beyond the scope of this webinar, so we can always connect up later on.
I guess Srinivas will really think twice before having ghee now.
Okay.
Okay, we have another question. How to drop habit of eating sweets?
Yeah, food. I think it's very, very important. You know what? Food is very, very important because most of your emotions come from your in your thinking abilities, and what happens, and your brain basically functions on chemicals. And if your nutrition levels are high, if your nutrition levels are optimum, then what happens is you are giving the brain the right kind of the chemical structure to work. And that is when the including when you have enough of exercise, you induce something called endorphins in the body, which is a feel good hormone. Likewise, your brain works basically on electric signals or chemical messengers that are there. As long as you're able to give it in the right quantity in the body, which it takes it from, your emotions are going to be balanced. That is the reason why you see, if the child is not properly nourished, it could be a deficiency in iron, it could probably be a deficiency in vitamin D or something else. It goes cranky very quickly. Why? It's basically because you're not the right amount of nutrition in terms of the chemical messengers are not flowing in the brain, and that gives rise to bad emotions. Whereas a child that is nourished properly will never throw tantrums. He's very balanced. He's focused on what he's doing. So I think, it plays a very, very important in the cognitive levels and functioning.
Kiran, there is a question: how to drop habit of eating sweets?
How to drop eating habit of
eating sweets?
Okay.
We should not buy.
No, in fact, I had an idea of they delivering that to me.
Okay, you know what? Why does eating sweet? Why do you have a craving for sweets?
Sweet tooth.
Huh?
Sweet tongue or tooth.
The reason why we have a craving of sweet is, what? If you look at it, the taste is only a very small, maybe the 2 inches on the tongue. But what's important? Where does that craving originate? It originates in your stomach. It originates in your body. because there's a low in the nutrition level. If your body is well nourished, you will never have to wake up for all other kind of deficiencies. One of the first signals that the body gives is it instigates your pancreas to secrete more insulin, which creates a deficiency, or it takes away all the sugar and starts craving for more sugar. If the body is well nourished, you have all your systems functioning properly, you will never have that kind of craving. So if it comes, anything you talk about comes down to basically a balanced nutrition.
Okay.
How to include 4 to 5 servings of fruits per day? Best timings. You need to spread it across. You need to spread it across the whole day. You know, what I would suggest is in the morning, breakfast is probably one of the most important meals of the day. So what you generally do is include a lot of protein in your breakfast, along with some fresh fruits. And then evening, have some fruits. When the children come back from school, that's an ideal time to include some fruits. And also night, maybe before dinner, have a little bit of salad. I think that is what it is. That's the reason why a salad is something which is always given before. Morning breakfast, I would always urge and suggest a good amount of protein along with some good amount of fruits, because one is it takes care of any, the body would have fasted for close to about 12 hours from the last meal till the breakfast time. So the protein helps you to kickstart your system, and the fruits that you eat helps you to get enough of energy to get you moving.
We have another question. They've asked, should we listen to our stomach or mind? I feel we will have to listen to Kiran.
you need to listen. There's a very strong connection between your mind and the gut. That is what they call as the gut mind connection. So like I said, anything that comes out of a craving is probably because of hunger. So an ideal way to eat is, you fill your stomach only 2/3 full, give the balance for it to process itself, the body to process the food you eat. And then obviously, what, you're letting the stomach do its thing.
Yeah, that's good, Kiran. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks, Kiran. That was really good. 1 hour of lot of nutrition, lot of proteins and carbohydrates, which most of us would not look into. But good that you made us get aware whenever we are getting onto the dining table. That was really very good. Thanks, Kiran.
Thank you, Srini, for the opportunity to speak to you people. And any doubts, my number is always there. You can reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you so much. It was, I think, wonderful learning about nutrition. I think one of the ignored part, right? That's where we fall sick and a lot of things happen. But I think it's very important. And thank you for touching upon the kids part. I think that really helped. I think I was able to pick up a couple of points, from your presentation. Thank you so much, Kiran.
My pleasure. Yeah. There's one last question. How do you stop the urge to put the stomach to full capacity? Okay, how do you stop this is when you space what you eat, you slow down your eating. Instead of rushing, you know when to stop. It's only when you start gulping down everything as if there's no tomorrow, you're not going to get your next meal. That is when you don't know when to stop.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Kiran. Thanks
Thank
all
you,
the
Kiran.
participants
Thank you so much.
For attending this webinar, and thanks Srini for the opportunity, and Harish also for helping us with the technical things. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining. Yeah. See you in the next webinar.